different stream, and then we're gonna get going.
Perfect.
Yep. So we are now live.
There she is. Hey, Alexis.
Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to see you people.
Hello.
Hey.
We are live on.
We are.
That's amazing.
So listen, I am gonna just start by saying I appreciate everybody's flexibility in this crazy world. And we're just gonna kind of keep on going ahead with the day as planned. I'm gonna turn my camera off because y'all need to talk to me today. You talk to me all the time. And so Saray, if you could just kind of let us dive on in. I know I'm really excited to be able to hear from Jasmine this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, John. If you all are viewing us here on YouTube or on our website page at obsidianfest.org, we want to say welcome. Welcome to week 3, you all, of our Obsidian Theater Festival. Tonight we have Miss Jasmine Richardson with us. She is one of our directors, and she will be interviewed by our AD, Miss Alexis Sims. So I'm going to just shift it right on over to her so that we can get this good energy flowing with Miss Jasmine Richardson. She's so amazing. And again, thank you all for joining us tonight for the Obsidian Theater Festival, week 3. Alexis?
Thank you, Saray. So my name is Alexis Sims. I am the Associate AD, or Artistic Director, for those of you who are unsure what that acronym means. And I am sitting here with Miss Jasmine Richardson, who directed 2 pieces for us. Black Women Are the Moon, which is what you may recognize her face, because you've been seeing her for the last 2 weeks in little clips, as well as one of our featured plays called Papa Jennings. So Jasmine, I'm just going to really quickly give everyone that's watching a little bio overview, if you will.
Of course.
So Jasmine's mission in storytelling is to empower women of color by highlighting the many facets of womanhood, while also still being authentically Black and telling important stories written and performed by people of color. She played the methodical Nikki Marin on the first national tour of The Bodyguard. Don't let me. Okay. Her Broadway credits include Book of Mormon, Broadway in Getting the Band Back Together, and she made her directorial debut with Kristen Childs' poignant piece, Bubbly Black Girl Sheds Her Chameleon Skin, followed by The Next Black Leading Lady, a collection of songs from musical comedies starring Black women. So basically, she's fierce, y'all. That's basically what that means. Yes, thank you for being here with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me. You know, I love us. So that's what the mission is to serve our community.
It is for sure. I love that once again, like, we're hair twins.
I know, right?
Usually our hair would be like a scarf or like
we're always working and we don't look as cute as we do now. So
oh man. Okay. So for all of you who are tuning in, Jasmine, can you give us a little bit of a background about kind of how you got into directing and where you got your mission from?
Absolutely. That's such a great question. Funny enough, I didn't see directing as like a skill set for me. I didn't think it was something that I would be good at. But I had a friend that owns a theater company, and he was doing Bubbly Black Girl Sheds Her Chameleon Skin. And he was saying, you know what, Jasmine, I'm looking for directors, and it's really hard for me to find an African-American female to direct, but I really want that point of view. I really want the vision to come from a Black woman. And I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, I totally get it. Love the show. We're just talking. So he asked me, he was like, do you think you could do it? I'm like, absolutely not. I know my strengths. I know what I do well. Acting has always been the primary focus, kind of like the nucleus of my career. And I said no. I turned it down. He asked me a couple more times. I was like, no, he's convincing me. He's telling me that I'm worthy. I have the skills. I'm more than enough. He's literally speaking it into my life. And I was like, well, let me just read it again to see if maybe anything even sparks inspiration, you know, something creative will come out of it. So I read it again and I was like, how can you not challenge yourself to do this? Like, Kirsten Childs is so brilliant already as a playwright. She's giving you everything you need. Just trust the story, trust your instincts, and make some choices, right? The things that you do as an actor. So I called him back and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I might need you to hold my hand because I don't know where to start. And he did. He held my hand. And it was literally the best decision I have ever made on betting on myself, because so much has come from that in terms of just trusting myself and doing things that I thought that I could never do. So it really changed everything for me, because directing is like probably like my number one thing that I love to do. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
That's so cool. And that just gave me so many things that I wanted to also pick your brain about, because I mean, the people who are tuning in are students of all ages. Pipeline. Can you see me just?
Yeah, I got you. The enemy is trying to break it up, but we are here. I got you.
Here. Oh no. The Wi-Fi. Anyway. But I was just thinking of so many things that you said, just in, betting on yourself, and the importance of, trusting your instincts and your gut. And also, that when something is for you, you just really have to step into it. You do the work, but then you step into it. And also just, I know that, there were so many things that you said that I was like, oh yes, I should write this down. Oh, I need to talk about this. But the importance of having someone who pushes you to see the greatness that is in you. Yeah. And I know from our conversations, you work with a lot of students also.
I do.
And I just kind of wanted to, I guess, since that going into that transition, it seems like it happened because, can you just talk about, I guess, the importance of having someone like that in your corner, having mentorship, and if you don't have it, ways to kind of try to cultivate it?
Absolutely. You know what? I think the biggest thing that people need to learn when you're building or starting something, to work with what you have, right? So my friend reached out to me as a resource because I was already a part of his tribe. So he's working unilaterally versus trying to work vertically, because some of the people that we're looking up to and admiring, they're already there and they have their group that they're working with. So that has been the biggest learning curve. Is like, oh, everyone in my friend group has something to contribute to whatever idea I have, whatever creative plan I want to, take on. I have those resources already available to me. So that was a big thing. With him bringing me in as a director, it gave me the freedom to pick young people who hadn't started their careers yet. So then I can bring in this new crop of kids, teach them what it means to be a professional, to work in a professional situation, to guide them. A lot of those kids were non-union, hadn't gotten their cards yet, but they were full of talent and potential. So it allowed me as a director and a professional actor to kind of help and shape and mold. And so therefore it served my mission in terms of serving us. And then it also served my mission in terms of helping the generation behind me get to where I am. So I use everything in my life as something purposeful. My whole mission is to serve. So I serve in my work, I serve in my personal life. So that creating that kind of mentorship pipeline has been great for me. So now those kids are out working on national tours. Those kids, some of them gotten their cards. And that was just maybe 2 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. I'm also an adjunct professor for my alma mater, Abilene Christian University. And in terms of betting on myself yet again, I said, I have something to give. The pandemic hit. Of course, we all were affected. Broadway shut down. So I was like, what can I do to still be creative? I had binged everything on Netflix. I was like, I cannot sit here watching TV and eating. I have to do something. So I pitched the idea to the faculty at my alma mater of like an industry coach, teaching the things that they're not learning in the classrooms, how to manage your time, how to budget your finances so you can live safely. New York is an expensive city, so you can live in a safe area and still have money to get the things you need for your acting, like your headshots and all the expenses that come with that. So in just believing that I had something to say, someone betted on me again, and I bet on myself and I got that opportunity. So everything I do, I try to serve in some capacity, because eventually it always comes back to me. I've been really, really blessed in my career. And I think that the least I can do is share that information and help somebody else get to where I am. And, I still have more to go and grow, and I do not know everything, but I feel like in ways of giving back, it only propels me further anyway. So yeah.
Yes, and I think that like the other great takeaway from what you're saying is that in betting on yourself, like if right now you don't feel like you're out there and you're watching and you don't
Right.
feel like you have a mentorship or you don't feel like you have support, but if you feel that you have something that you can give, that you have something to say that has value, then just ask for it. And the
Yes.
worst that they can say is no.
Is no, you have nothing to lose. You're already starting at zero, you know, so you might as well.
Exactly. So it's like just bet on yourself and just ask.
And
And
work within your network. You know, there's always somebody, even if it's like, let's sit down and write, or I wrote something, can you read it for me just so I can hear it out loud? You have it all within your own network. Really, truly. Yeah, that's been a big thing.
So since I know that, you know, you worked on 2 pieces, but especially with your mission
Yeah.
and even with Bubbly Black Girl Sheds for Chameleon Skin. So something that you all who are watching don't know is that what you're seeing from Black Men or the Moon that Jasmine directed is an excerpt from the piece. And when we were selecting the excerpt, it was actually something that Jasmine and I talked about. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about um, why you wanted to tweak the selection
Yes.
and kind of how you approached Black Women Are the Moon?
Yes. First of all, the title says it all, right? Black Women Are the Moon. And I remember, you know, from the beginning when you guys, you know, mentioned the projects that you wanted me to participate in and collaborate with you guys on. That wasn't the first one. Remember, I was like, I don't know. I was kind of interested in something else and I just wasn't sure. And it's just nothing but God and like the synergy of me and Alexis. And she was like, but I really think this is good for you. I don't know, but I really think. And I'm like, girl, you don't know me. I don't know. I want to try and branch out, you know. I want to do things that serve our community, but I had done some pieces that were centered around women already. So I was like, well, maybe. And she was right. Bottom line, she was right. And I'm so, so happy that I trusted her enough to go. And she trusted me to do it. So when I read the excerpts and read the piece, I was like, I love it in its entirety. Because remember when you shared it initially, I had only gotten, you know, bits and pieces. I hadn't seen the whole thing. So when I read it, I was like, oh my God, this is me. I love it. In tweaking it, I'm not into trauma porn. I know John and I even mentioned that. We're not into triggering people and traumatizing people. There's enough on social media. There's enough pieces to watch that kind of trigger things in us, you know, when they're like colorism and just the way that art can be sometimes handled. With this piece, there was something at the end where there wasn't hope yet that one of the ladies got out of the situation. And, you know, there's something to aspire to. There wasn't that in it at the time when I initially read it. And so we kind of went back to the drawing board and I read it again and said, can we just move this and switch this and kind of move some things around? And you were so understanding. And when you read it all together, it made sense, right? It kind of gave us a more of like, of course, these women are individuals, but at the same time, they come together. They're kind of, you know, I'm trying to find my words, but they're all one. They're all one. And I kind of think of Black women like that. You know, of course, we're not monolithic and all one voice, but in the same way that we're different, we're the same. And so I wanted to have something that kind of brought it all back to Lauren essentially living out her dreams, therefore taking the rest of the women with her. So yeah, it was really collaborative. And in the same breath, I was super, super nervous because we were doing everything virtually. But you guys, you don't even know it, but you pushed me to do something that I didn't think I would be able to do, which is direct without being in the room with my actors. But yeah, when you have a good piece, it actually kind of worked out and was organic. And it was natural.
Also, Jasmine came up with the brilliant idea to, because Black Men Are the Moon is the one piece in the festival that we wanted to use specifically for the Sister Cities program. If you tuned in week 1, I did an interview with Finessia Farrell, the playwright, and she actually got her start in writing from a competition, or she was just told to write a monologue. And
Wow.
so that's exactly what we wanted to do with this piece. We didn't even know it at the time. So it's just
Yeah.
how things work out. But as this was the only piece that was going to be completely online and never in the space, all of a sudden, so we have a Zoom rehearsal room, and all of a sudden these women are coming in twice. And I'm like, well, why are they coming into the rehearsal room twice? I go in, Jasmine has set up, they have 2 cameras. They have their laptop or their tablet, and then they have their phone or somebody else's phone. And so then you're getting like 2 How did you?
Angles. It really was John. It really was John. You know, he's brilliant when it comes to technology. And I was like, we wanted depth, and you know, it obviously doing something virtually, it's already kind of stagnant. And so you kind of want to give something that the eye can follow along because the women are so dynamic. But yeah, I had to say that I stole that from John, but we set up just the two cameras so we could have different angles to keep it still entertaining, that element of, you know, kind of surprise that it's a virtual performance, you know. That's
So
why.
2 weeks from now, week 5 on Thursday, you will see the full piece, or the full excerpt of Black Women Are the Moon by Jasmine Richardson. I just wanted to, I guess, keep talking to you about, you know, when you're looking at a piece as a director, kind of what is your process? Do you have an established process? Is it similar to your acting process? Is it?
Yeah, you know, yeah, you oftentimes when you're choosing a role, you know, it's like, do I connect to it? You know, what are some of our similarities, you know, all of that kind of work. And I feel the same way as a director. When I read something, I want to connect to it. That's why I was very honest about which pieces I wanted to do, because I was like, well, I connected to that. You know, nobody wants to work on something they do not like. And I'm the same way. So yeah, I have to like it. I have to like it. I need to know how much creative space I have to work with it, because sometimes you have producers sitting over your shoulder, or people that, you know, the money people, like, and their opinion matters. So you always want to know, are you going to trust me to, you know, go full out with my vision and concept? And you guys are so supportive. You like created such a safe space that I could trust myself, even though I had never done it on this platform, and it worked out beautifully. I had to trust you guys because you did the casting essentially, right? So I was really nervous about that, because as a director, 80% of the work of like your full piece is in the casting. It has to be the right person. You know, someone can really make or break an experience. So that was nerve wracking. But then I got in, and the first day, the actors were just incredible people. You know, you just want to, you know, talent is very important, obviously, skill, the craft, the art, but working with people you like, can't say enough about it, because you spend so much time with them. And these ladies came in as open, exposed vessels, ready to work, ready to play, ready to try things. Even if they weren't sure the direction I was going in, they trusted me. And so I know as a director, the biggest thing is coming in, explaining what the vision is, making sure that you keep it open enough that if an actor wants to add something or take something away or bring in a thought or try something, that you're flexible. So, you know, it's such a collaborative work. I tell my actors immediately, I do not have all the answers. I don't want to have all the answers. Please come in here and try things, you know, and I'll guide you and help you, you know, figure out what is right for you. So when you create a safe space, then the actors are just like, they'll do anything, you know, they'll, in terms of commitment to the role, you know, not anything, you know, but the commitment to the role, they come in ready to, you know, to explore. And so that is the fun part. That's my favorite part. You know, that's my favorite part about the process is the working together, the collaborating.
Can you talk a little bit about what it means to create a safe space? Like, what would that feel like? How do I know when I'm in a safe space for acting? What are some, what are some things, if I don't feel like I'm in a safe space, I can ask for or
Absolutely. For me, I like to say, like, starting with the whole, I don't have all the answers, because most of the time when I know for myself as an actor, when I come in, I'm still trying to please the director. I want them to feel like they made the right choice in casting me. So I try to get rid of that immediately, because if you're in the room, you're the right person to be in the room. So you don't have anything else to prove. I just need you to come and do your work, you know? So that's part of it. My biggest thing is always, I ask my actors to let me know if you're having a rough day, because sometimes what you have that day in coming in the room is just what you have. You know, there's so many other factors before you get into an audition room or rehearsal room. And I want them to know it's okay if you're just tired, you know, because sometimes you have other side hustles, you have kids, you have a family, and everyone's pulling it on you, and you're trying to be a professional, come in, be prepared, and do your work and be memorized and all that stuff. So sometimes I just have to say, just let me know where you are. And that creates that dialogue that if they are off, they can come to me and say that. Or if they're not feeling well or whatever, I always just want them to know that I'm here to make this the easiest process it can be. It's not to, you know, make you feel like you have to prove anything, because no one has to prove anything in the room. You're enough. So that's my process. I always do the whole check in. How's your heart today? You know, I love that. It's harder with men. They're like, I'm good. Can we get started? But women are usually like, girl, I don't, you know, whatever the feeling is. And that just makes it so much more enjoyable for me, because you trust me enough to share how you're feeling as a person. So it's very important for me, for my actors, not to feel like I just want them to be a good actor. I want you to be in a good place as a person, because I can get the best out of you when you are. So that's how I usually like to create a safe space. I give my actors one-on-one time. With this particular piece, bringing it back to Black Women Are the Moon, I worked with each lady individually, because it is a monologue based kind of script. So it was nice to give them that time without other people watching, for them to discover the characters. We can talk about the characters, the relationships to the other people, who the character is. So that's how I like to create safe space, is having that one-on-one relationship with the actors. And that definitely usually helps. So sorry, my stuff is long-winded, but I try to give you as much as I can.
Please, like, I think everyone is here for it. We're here for it, right? Like, that's why we're all here, to hear your explanation and to hear your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I know that all of the women in the piece just raved about how amazing you were.
Oh,
and
nice.
also just how rare it is to work with a Black female director.
Mm-hmm.
And as a Black female director, how do you feel like that has, I guess, how does who you are, since, you know, my pronouns are she, her, I believe, Jasmine, your pronouns are she, her.
Mm-hmm.
How does being a Black woman in this Black woman, female identifying director,
Mm-hmm.
affect how you're able to move through spaces, or
Mm-hmm.
the opportunities that you're given, or just how do you feel like that impacts your work?
You know, I almost feel the same way I do as an actress. Like, I have to work 10 times harder. I feel like, you know, there's no slacking. I have to have answers for all the things that, you know, all the questions that will be asked. You know, I usually try to think 20 steps in advance. You know, I'm trying to think of what every character is doing, whoever's helping me, whether I'm doing a musical, the MD, everyone is informed. We're all on the same page. So I feel immense stress, and sometimes I put a lot of pressure on myself to be perfect. That's something that I have to work through, even in therapy. I'm just like, okay, Jasmine, you have the tools. You know, you don't have to bend over backwards all the time. Like, if you need anything, I'm that person. Like, if you need anything, call me. It doesn't matter what time of day and night. You know, I will find the answer. But sometimes you just have to let it breathe and trust that you've already done your prep work, and you can, you know, just especially be in the moment when rehearsals get underway, and, you know, all the questions are being thrown at me. I try to be in the moment, but it's hard being a Black woman creative, period. So then you add in the elements of being a director or someone in a position of power, and you're telling other people what to do. Sometimes it's hard. Like, I find that I'm oftentimes trying to smile so people will feel comfortable around me. Because if I'm too hard, then I might be considered, you know what I mean? As a woman, it's a fine line. Like, we can be tough, we can be firm, but we couldn't be like a man. And I've witnessed it in rehearsals with male directors barely speaking, coming in the room, not addressing anybody, you know, and everyone's like pulled up. But if a woman were to do it, I just know that it would be a different response. So I'm just always aware of how I'm perceived. So I'm always trying to be mindful of it. But at the same time, I'm a person that, you know, especially when I'm working on something, I know what I want. I know how I want it done. I'm very vocal, but I try to do it with tact. So it's just all of these components you have to be aware of that I feel like sometimes men don't always have to think about. But that's just my opinion on it. And that's been my experience. So I hope one day not have to think about these things, and I could just come in and do the work. But most of the time I'm thinking about everything else before I could even get to the work. So,
you know, what's really cool about this that I just realized is how, you know, as actors, I feel like we see the people behind the table, and they're
mm-hmm.
like these, I don't know, they're not people.
Right.
What's so cool about hearing you say these things
mm-hmm.
is like, oh, right, like, she's a person.
Yeah.
Like, she has her own set of things that she also has to deal with.
Her factors and, you know, constructs that she has to work within. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And so it actually, in knowing that, in humanizing you as the director, whoever it is that's behind the table, it kind of gives space, at least when I'm hearing it, to also be a human.
Absolutely.
And to also recognize that we're all impacted by different things, and that, you know, when you said you don't have to be perfect, like, ooh, that like really hit me.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about this, you know?
Yeah. Like, I feel like that's something that's really common for, I mean, I'm, you know, a Black woman, so I can't really speak about what it is to be a Black man, but I feel like for Black women, you know, there can be that pressure to be perfect in whatever iteration we're in at that moment, and whatever hat we're wearing at that moment.
Absolutely.
Like, brings me back to Black Women Are the Moon, because just, why do you feel like that piece is important?
What I love about that piece is you get so many facets and points of view from 4 different women, you know what I mean, that have completely different backgrounds. I feel like, I know for me reading it and also working on it, I saw myself in every single one of them. You know, they were all brilliant women. They just took different paths. And I think it's important for people to see this and hopefully see themselves in it, even men, because it's not really about gender. It's just about life experiences. And we all have a lot of similarities in that. It's awesome just to see Black women owning who they are and where they are. And I know for me, I've been living in a complete place of transparency and honesty. So when people ask me, how are you doing today? If my answer is, I'm not doing well, that's my answer. And then I don't justify it. I don't try to explain that answer, you know, unless they ask me more about it. But honestly, I've gotten to the place where I don't want to pretend anymore. I want to be where I am. And it doesn't always have to be a negative thing, but sometimes you just have to be honest. And yeah, that's kind of how I view it. And I'm just happy to share Black Women of the Moon with the world, because these women are brilliant and our voices need to be heard and our stories need to be told. So yeah, I'm excited about sharing it.
Yay.
Yay.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I also just feel like, and I don't know what it is, but there's something that happens in creative spaces where, you know, a lot of the barriers and the walls that kind of keep us separated,
Yeah.
broken down.
Yeah. Because it's so exposing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
and like,
so exposing.
we're able to be so truthful in a way that maybe is harder to be in real life.
Right.
And I just want to take this opportunity to plug again, if you are a student tuning in, please do write your own monologue, 90 seconds or less, tape it, send it in to us. You can send it to me. Send it to me, Alexis at ghostlightinc.com. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. We want to hear your voice. I think that's something that, you know, Jasmine, you really have been stressing the importance, right?
Yeah. And even you guys, what you're doing right now, giving these playwrights a platform where their works can be seen, and then we can tell this story. It's brilliant. And I think we have so many brilliant young people in our community that don't know that this is an option for them. So this is really great for them to know, hey, what you have to say matters, and we want to tell your story specifically. So I'm really excited about that, what you guys are doing with this. Yay.
That you're here.
Of course.
It is 7 o'clock, which means that we are going to be transitioning. I'm so sorry that we didn't get a chance to talk longer.
This was perfect.
I am hopeful that, you know, we will meet again.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here with us. I'm just going to say thank you for coming again. Are you here? Is anyone here? How are we doing? I know we have a lineup. Jasmine, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you. And we will talk soon.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alexis.
Absolutely.
All right. Again, welcome. If you are just now viewing and tuning in to the Obsidian Theater Festival tonight, My name is Saray Daniels, and I'm the Arts Education Coordinator for the Obsidian Theater Festival. And we want to again welcome you to our Week 3 content. We just heard from our Assistant Director, Alexis Sims, as she interviewed Miss Jasmine Richardson, who's one of the directors for our theater festival, in particular directing Black Women Are the Moon, which is the piece that they just finished up speaking about, that talking about the process and what does it mean to be a Black woman in a directorial role, and just tons of stuff. You guys have to tune in again if you missed it. It will be here on YouTube, and it will also play on our Facebook page at Obsidian Festival. So please make sure you tune in. So right now we have on the docket Mr. Kenneth Kellogg and Ms. Fakile, who will be speaking with us and being interviewed by our CEO and our executive producer, Mr. John Sloan. I cannot wait to hear from these two, John. I'm so excited.
First of all, hey everybody! Thank you for tuning in again in this our third week of our Sister Cities program. And Fakile and Kenneth are two fantastic artists and entrepreneurs and business people as well. So I'm just really excited to go ahead and dive on in. So Saray, thank you very much. The conversation, in case you're just tuning in, that you just missed, is live right now on our YouTube page. You can come back and check it out. And for those of you, this might be your very first time, just go online to our website at obsidianfest.org and check the past performances and panels. You'll get to see that recent conversation with our Associate Artistic Director, Alexis Sims. And Kenneth, hey brother, come on through.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's been a day.
So I have a whole script and everything to introduce y'all to the people for a second. So let me make sure I can get that out. I'm going to start, Ken, if you don't mind, with Miss Fakile Mthwalo, a Lesotho-born actor, absolutely best known for playing the role of Zach on the long-time standing South African show Isindingo. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. I'm doing my best.
It's good. It's good.
Thank you. I'll take notes later, so just feel free to shoot them over. Something that in today's conversation is about the working actor, right? So in addition to being an actor, November of 2020, Fakile was awarded an American Express grant and mentorship prize as part of their Founders of Change initiative to provide financial and educational backing for 100 Black female business owners. She also holds an MFA from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts and a BA in film and video production from the University of Cape Town. And we are just excited and thrilled to have you here today. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited and thrilled to be here.
Thank you. And Kenneth Kellogg, who's the other brother on the screen today, is an advocate for artists' rights and uses his certification from Cornell University and consults with performing arts organizations on their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. He's also a DC born and raised brother who went to Duke Ellington School of Performing Arts, as well as University of Michigan and Ohio University. He is an accomplished opera singer in the US and in Europe. And we are excited to have you with us today.
My pleasure, man.
So listen, part of all of this content that we've been rolling out over these past few weeks and what we have coming up in the 2 weeks leading forward is our effort to help outline for young people what a career looks like in the arts. And what I think is really interesting is that all of us that have been on tonight, the two of you, Jasmine, Alexis, myself, we have varying careers, right? We've all come from different places, but all have a measure and a level of success. If you could both just start by introducing yourself to the youth that might be out there and talking to them about how you got from where you were, right, in your youth to where you are now. I think it's important to outline for kids that there's no one right way. There's no one right path. Yeah. Fakile, do you want to start?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, you just took me way back. So I was born in a country called Lesotho, which, for those of you who don't know, South Africa actually has like a self-contained little country right in the middle of it. And that's where I was born. And my mother's Kenyan Tanzanian. So I consider myself Pan-African. So, mixed family in that context. And I schooled there. I ended up going to South Africa for the last couple of years of my high schooling. I did a stint in Amsterdam after high school, so I could speak Dutch. And that's where I really felt like, Oh, I'm really interested in the arts. I'm interested in film. I'm interested in how pictures get on the other side of the television. Because as a kid in Lesotho, what's that 1.8 million people, we had one TV station and it only broadcast from 5 p.m. till 9 p.m. So that's the context in which I grew up. And always just kind of wondering, like, how do they get in that box? So that question has sort of just been leading me like throughout my life to figure my way in. And I did when I decided to study film and video production in undergrad at UCT. A lot of my family were like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? Like, what do we tell people when they ask us? Making it about them, which is typical African family. But so I did some production work in Cape Town, and then I started my professional acting career as a commercial actor in Cape Town. So I did campaigns from Nivea to, insurance stuff, moved to Johannesburg, and then started acting on like local dramas and soapies and then eventually series. And then I got a scholarship to go to NYU and get my acting MFA. So that's what, that's how I'm here. I'm currently in LA right now pursuing personal projects. My company, Glubs, which is a new eco-friendly rubber products brand. So that's like my other baby. And I feel, for the first time in a long time, very balanced in my artistic and business life.
So I would love to talk, and we definitely want to make sure we talk about Glubs and how you build out that business side. But before we get to Kenneth for a second, I think something that you said that was really interesting and that we haven't heard from any of our previous guests is making that decision to really kind of uproot your life, right? And like coming to a different country and what that choice might have been. I think there are a lot of youth out there whose parents might not be sure, who might be scared when they hear them say, I want to get a BFA, or I want to, study music or theater or drama. Can you talk about, because it feels like that took a lot of courage for you to be able to say, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to go to another country to do that. Can you talk about that decision-making process a little bit?
My dad once told me this thing that I never quite understood until like maybe this year. He said, you know what, Fikile, you're either really, really brave or really, really stupid. But, and, at the time, he's my dad. It's like, oh, what does that mean? But, I choose to be brave. I choose to take my actions as bravery. I'm not sure what it was. It might be because my mom was a transplant from East Africa and she was living in Southern Africa. And, Southern Africa has had its issues with xenophobia. And she adapted. She adapted very, very quickly to the language from a Swahili-speaking country to a Sesotho-speaking country, and then to these hybrid children that she had to like figure out what to do with. So I think that made me like inherently very adaptable. But also in a country that is so tiny, if you want to do something like the arts, like showbiz, which needs infrastructure for the most part, you have to leave. I had no choice. It was a thing I wanted to do. Sure, I did performance and drama. Luckily, I had the access to that at school. But I wanted to make it a career. And so just that desire kind of propelled me. And, I know every immigration process. I literally got my green card approved last week. Like, I know everything from the South African immigration process to the Dutch immigration process, and then, to the United States. Like, I've been through it all. But I think it's just that desire. I must want it badly enough.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that immigration conversation is probably a whole separate panel discussion in and of itself, right? Kenneth, can you talk a little bit about your upbringing in the arts? I mean, going to a school as prestigious and well known as Duke Ellington, like people know what that means, right? Or at least for Black
of course.
There's an understanding as to what that is. I gotta stop myself, because normally when I get on a panel discussion, I'm the one with the deepest voice, and I feel like as we start talking, where I'm gonna get into a thing later where I'm just I'm
gonna be a competition. Yeah, of course. You're talking down here. It's all good. We can do it. We can go.
I'm not gonna compete. I'm not gonna even try it. I'm not even gonna try it. Can you talk a little bit about your path and your history and how you grew up in this industry?
Yeah. My path is, getting to Ellington was a big point in that path. But before then, music wasn't a really big part of my life. I had amazing music teachers in elementary school, and that was about the extent of my music. I didn't really have opera in the home. I definitely didn't have opera in the home. And I had R&B, hip hop, and I played basketball. I was an athlete as a kid, but I had an amazing music teacher in elementary school, and she just started pulling kids from class. Like, you're going to be in choir, you're going to learn piano. So I had to make a choice if I'm going to give up recess to take piano lessons, or I'm going to go play ball with my friends. And she was such a strong influence, and she loved music so much that it was infectious, you know? And then you start to have crushes on girls, and they're all in the music program. So you're like, all right, it might not be that bad. So, I ended up taking a couple music courses with her. And I had an experience of being in the Washington, D.C. Boys Choir because of her. And it was based in Duke Ellington School of the Arts. And this was when I was in elementary school. And time came for me to go to high school. And, growing up in DC during that time was rough. We had, I think DC was like the murder capital of the world at that point. And my mom, she worked a full-time job. She's like, you are auditioning for Duke Ellington School of the Arts. One, because they were in school from, I think, like 9 to 5. So it was like a job. So we were in school. We had academics in the morning, and we had the arts in the evening. So large impetus was, just listening to those people around me. And yes, I had a love for singing, a natural joy for singing, but it wasn't a passion. And then I got to Ellington, and I started to see a different life. It was different than the neighborhood I grew up in. So I lived in Northwestern DC, which was pretty rough at that time, but Ellington was based in Georgetown, which is Georgetown, And so I would commute from my neighborhood to Georgetown every day, and I would see this different lifestyle. So I attached that, that joy and that uplift and that positivity from just being in that area. I equated that to music, because that's what I went there to study. And Ellington, it was a hotbed of creativity. It was a hotbed of expression. Like, I was the arts kid in my neighborhood, but at Ellington, I was just another kid, and we all loved the expression of art. So they had visual arts, they had, instrumental arts, they had museum studies. So they had all of these different kids and all of these different facets of expressing themselves. So I found another way to express myself through music at Ellington. And that kind of set me on a path just to explore every facet of the art and arts, just because it was a freeing experience, just being able to express yourself beyond words and beyond like what I knew in my neighborhood was freeing. And then somebody gave me a scholarship to go to school, It's like, all right, bet there might be something to this, Going to college, I wasn't going to major in music. I was going to major in something totally different. And it was one of those moments. I had the experience of my voice teacher at the time. Like, he knew I had potential, but he knew I wasn't a musician, And he said, he believed in me before I even believed in myself. So he went to Peggy Cooper Kafertz, who was the founder of the school, and said, this kid has potential, but, he didn't apply to school for music. So Peggy Cooper Kafertz, being the philanthropist that she is, she said, I'll pay your tuition to go to college, but you have to major in music. So switch gears real fast. Like, all right, bet. Like, I've been doing it. It's fun. I love this form of expression. So let's roll with it. And the career, it kind of rolled like that, I found freedom in the arts, and I found joy in people finding joy in what I do. And, that kind of snowballed into a career. It wasn't until I went through, undergrad, grad school, post-grad, conservatory, and I found myself, all that was purely love. It was purely having fun. And I found myself at San Francisco Opera, like singing on San Francisco Opera stage as a young artist. And I was having coffee one day, and I was in my pajamas because rehearsal didn't start until later that evening. And I looked around at the rat race, people in suits running around, getting to work, miserable, chugging down coffee, trying to get through the day. And here I was, as an artist, enjoying myself in my pajamas, not really being stressed. And it wasn't until then that I really started calling myself an opera singer and an artist. And the passion was always there, the love was always there, but the awareness of being, of how the world sees me as an artist wasn't really there. It was just fun and a form of expression. So, snowball into what, 10 years later, I don't know. Like, I'm supporting my family as an artist. I'm now, a visual artist. I am an advocate for artists. I love everything about being an artist, because it allows me to express myself in a way that going to an office just doesn't, I tried to work a normal job a couple times. I've tried to run away from singing a couple times, because at some point the business becomes business and it's not about, that expression. I've tried to run away, but my soul, like every time I'm away from it, my soul it's miserable, man. So I'm always drawn back to it. And that love and that awareness of what it does for me and the world kind of pushes me through the career.
That's amazing, man. I think it's also interesting too that we talk about, like, as artists, we often talk about the love and the joy and the passion for it. And that's what keeps you up and motivated every day. But what I also love about I love a lot of things about what you just said, but what I find interesting right now, especially as we're talking to 15, 16-year-olds, maybe 12-year-olds that have this idealized version of what it is to be in the arts, is that there are moments when it's still a job. There are moments when the business of it gets on your nerves. When you talked about running away from it, I remember I was in a show and I had an injury and I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And 6 months later, I'm like bouncing around my room, stressed because I can't get on a stage. I would love for both of you to talk for a second about that, about how we find that balance. Right? Because a lot of people call this the business of show. And there's a way that we as artists have to protect ourselves, have to take care of ourselves. But there's a shift sometimes. Or I guess my question is there that shift? How do you walk through that shift of knowing that this is your passion, knowing that this is what you love, but still being mindful of the business side of how you can pay your bills and how you can take care of your family?
Oh, that's like a whole book, man.
Well, we got 20 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course. So there's something that happened that was really pivotal for me that let me know where my focus is. Mm-hmm. So I was at one of the top conservatories of the country, and I was singing every day, trying to like be the top student. And I was working with a coach who was really, and we can say abusive for lack of better terms. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to please him, so I was singing louder and louder and louder, and I felt a pop in my throat. Mm-hmm. And it resulted in like a vocal injury. So I had to like cancel a bunch of things, and I literally couldn't talk just so my muscles could heal properly, So I was at home and I was miserable because my whole existence was tied up in being a singer. And the moment I couldn't sing, I was like, who am I? Like, what am I without singing? So I was home and I was depressed. I was writing my orders down on paper in the store so I wouldn't talk. And then I needed to be around the art. I needed to be around people who were making the art. So I went back to the conservatory. And the head of the school, he looked at me and it was the first moment I walked in the door. He looked at me and was like, oh, hey, Kenneth, can you sing? And it's like, I motioned, no, I can't sing. And then he asked me, he was like, well, what are you doing here? And for me, I was like, what am I doing? Like, I work with you every day, like, you are my teacher. I'm here to work on my artistry with you. And if my being in the building only equates to my being able to sing, then that's a huge problem. Like, you don't value me as a person beyond what I can offer you as an artist or as talent. So for me, from that moment on, it became not about trying to please anyone else. I only sing for my joy. I only sing for my passion. I only sing for my love for the art, and not what someone else has to gain by it. And in that, you can find your path. You can find the things that feed your soul. You can find the things that you want to do and be in control of those things, as opposed to being pushed and pulled in so many different ways by industry people who have their own interest. If it's not going to benefit me in any way, then I'm not going to do it. And it wasn't until that moment that I realized that I have that power as an artist.
Yeah. Fikile, was there a moment for you? Was there a similar moment where you found yourself being pulled between the commoditization of yourself as an artist and the art that you wanted to produce for yourself?
Yeah, and I think it just kind of it happened by mistake, or like just as a result of something. When I left South Africa, I was definitely like on a upward trajectory in my like film, my TV career. And so, you know, other things were starting to come, like attention and people recognizing you and a little bit of money too. And then, I mean, NYU giving you a full scholarship is something that you can't say no to. But you move to this whole country where no one knows who you are. So I had to face why I was in it. Was I in it to, and it was confusing, you know, am I in this to be known? Because that's not happening anymore. That's not a thing. Why do I want this? I'm barking on the floor of the circus room like a dog. You know, when I could be back in South Africa, you know, living a higher standard of living. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? And it took me a while. It took me a while to get off my phone, you know, to put the Instagram and the Facebook and the likes away and really confront why I want to be an actor. And it became very clear to me that I'm very passionate about just authentic storytelling and telling stories about Black women of the diaspora all over the world that are different and compelling, but also that show how the same we all are on a fundamental level. And so that's when I decided to start creating on my own. And I produced like a short web series immediately after graduating. And that was super fun. And then I recently spoke to a friend, a director. I was also going through, you know, do I want to quit acting because I'm not getting callbacks? No one's paying attention to me. And he was like, well, you know, you don't quit acting, acting quits you. And I know it hasn't quit me yet because I still, you know, I'm 100% focused on making things happen for myself. But one other thing that's helping me sort of release the desperation, or the awareness that things aren't working out exactly the way I thought that they would be in my acting career is leaning into my other interests. I think for artists, we always think, oh, I'm a singer, for example, or I'm an actor. That's all I'm going to do. But really, when I was, you know, sitting in my Brooklyn apartment, broke, with a can of garbanzo beans staring me in the face, I was just like, there has to be something else, you know? There just has to be, like, what else do I like? So that's when I started the ideating process about how do I make money other than being on stage or being in front of the camera. What am I interested in? Oh, I'm interested in the environment. Oh, I like science, you know? So that's what, you know, led me to found my company. And that's really been an anchoring point. And it's really helped me love my craft of acting because I don't need it. I can do it because I love it, you know? So, yeah.
Can you talk some more about that? Because I think we've all, at least I know I've had a similar moment, sitting broke in my apartment, looking at some ramen noodles. Like, I really don't feel like eating this right now. I'm cold. Right. Like, and having that conversation with myself, being like, why did I put myself through all this to be here? And one thing that I think I find so admirable about both of your careers and about a lot of other artists whom I respect is that they have other things that they love. There are other aspects of their life that feed into their work. Can you talk for a second about that moment for you when you started recognizing that there were those other aspects and recognizing that it was going to grow into a business?
Yeah. So I basically was sick and tired of being sick and tired. So something had to change. And I was thinking of ideas, business ideas within the creative realm as I knew it. And the only businesses that I had heard or seen other people, other actors be involved in were production companies. but production companies weren't doing anything. You know, COVID wasn't a good time to start a production company because there was no production happening. And then that's when, you know, I was like, okay, well, let's look beyond the arts and see what you're interested in there and maybe create from there. And so when I founded Gloves, you know, it was a need. I was going to the grocery store and I made it a thing. I dressed up. I wanted to look cute. I hadn't been out in like 2 weeks. So I walked to the grocery store, but like my gloves were like this weird blue, which I hated. And then looking around, I saw these gloves just like litter the streets of Brooklyn, and it made me very uncomfortable. And I was like, surely someone's making some cute biodegradable disposable gloves, you know, kind of like the masks, and they're customizing them. And, you know, I can find it on the internet. You know, I researched, no one was doing it. And I literally was like, in 5 years, if you didn't go for this, if you closed your eyes and this company or this idea you didn't execute, how would you feel? And I was like, I'd be devastated. I'd be devastated if 5 years from now I haven't acted on this thing that just hit me like an aha moment, like no one's doing this. I would be very, very sad. So yeah. So a couple of things happened there. But I think, and you know, there's just some ideas that keep you awake at night, you know, that you can't stop thinking about, that you can't stop talking about. It's those ideas that I would just say, just go for it, you know. I think I'm gonna go get my master's in acting in America. I had no idea what NYU was. Honestly, I just Googled top 5 acting schools in America, and NYU was in the top 3. And I applied and I got in on a full scholarship. You know, it's those ideas that keep you up at night. Go for that. Like, it might seem crazy to some people. And that's another thing that I will say about new ideas at the beginning. Just keep them to yourself. We're artists. We want to share because you get so excited. But there will be that one but. Oh, but have you thought about whatever it is? Like, you know, have you thought about your mother who's in the village who needs your support? You know, have you thought about having babies? Like, whatever. There's always that one thing. And when an idea is a baby, it's like a baby. So it needs you to take care of it and nurture it and protect it. When you have a baby, I don't know. I think Kenneth, maybe you might speak on this better because I don't
have any kids. So
when you have a baby, you don't just go showing it to the world. You want to protect it until it can, you know, stand solidly on its feet. So that's one thing I would say about new ideas, especially ones that are susceptible to, you know, people's negative opinions, especially sometimes, unfortunately, people that we're close to, like our family members. Keep it to yourself until it has legs, you know, and then you can start sharing it.
Yeah. Are you protective of your new ideas, Kenneth? Do you kind of like toss them around in your head first before you start building them up?
No, I just go for it. Like I'm just like, well, also at the time I started Gloves, I literally had nothing to lose, right? So there's that. You can wait till you hit rock bottom. That's also an option. I'm just saying, you don't have to go there. But I'll still keep it to myself while executing it. Like, I tend to make decisions very, very quickly. You know, it's good and bad sides, you know, impulsiveness versus decisiveness. So yeah,
sure,
there's a balance there too.
Of course. Kenneth, what about you?
I have a lot of ideas. I think that's the problem. But because I'm like, my brain is constantly going. I think it's that creative side, you know? And being aware of that. So, you know, a bunch of things that I want to do and the bunch of things that I have done that have taken me away from music. Like, I started a company and I was so into it as much as I was into music, you know, and it was getting relatively successful, but I was still working as, you know, an artist, coaching, taking voice lessons and all that. And I told my coach, he's like, you know, I started this business, like, it's going well. And he was like, what are you doing? Like, you're an artist. You know, make money as an artist, find a way to make it as an artist. And the problem with spreading yourself too thin sometimes, especially with something like opera, is like, it's intense. You can spread yourself too thin and your attention can be in so many different areas. So now I try to keep my ideas in the realm of opera, connected to opera. If I'm going to do something else, it's going to have something to do with opera, just so I don't get too far away from what the ultimate goal is. So I have, you know, a consulting company right now. I'm consulting opera companies about how to make the industry better, which has nothing really to do with singing. It also has everything to do with about, growing the industry, growing the art, keeping it alive, keeping it thriving, and making it more equitable for everyone.
Can you,
So
can you talk,
yeah,
I
of
was going to
course.
say, can you talk some more about that? Because I always find it interesting when artists branch into adjacent aspects of the arts, right?
Yeah.
So part of me, I have 85 million ideas every day. Some of them have nothing to do with theater or music at all, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
of
want
course.
to build this new thing for a car. I'm not an
Yeah.
engineer. I'm not a designer. So I have no business doing that thing, right? But when an artist chooses something that is so adjacent to their practice, but still separate from, to me, it speaks about their love for the whole industry, right? Like
Of
stepping
course.
back and seeing every single aspect of it. Can you talk for a second about what led you into consulting with opera companies in that way?
Of course. I mean, largely it was, COVID and the death or murder of George Floyd. Opera has a lot of stigmas. One, it being a very white elitist art form. But within opera, there are a lot of Black artists who are thriving, who want to succeed, but feel like they've been locked out of the business for whatever reason. That's a whole other conversation. And when COVID hit and theater shut down, simultaneously George Floyd being murdered, there was this awareness or this awakening on opera companies. They wanted to put out something to show solidarity with, the moment and diversity and police violence. And I was doing an opera about police violence when COVID hit and everything shut down. So my voice was already elevated because I was talking about this piece. But as it happened across a lot of industries, opera, most of the administrators are white, and they wanted to make a statement of support about Black Lives Matter, but they didn't know what to say. So they started calling all the Black people that they felt comfortable with to have this conversation and asking opinions. And I'm not one that's shy. I will say what I have to say and say, like, whether you agree with me or not. But I'm able to say it in a way that, isn't purely emotion and purely anger. So I was able to say it in a way that they understood. And it kind of turned into like this thing. Like I was giving lectures on diversity, equity, inclusion in the arts. I was talking privately to heads of companies, asking me, what should we do? What can we do? Companies were sending me their promo stuff or their statements surrounding George Floyd. It's like, you can't say that because that's just very tone deaf. Mm-hmm. So it turned into this thing. And I had my own personal experience with it as a Black man in opera. Comes with its own challenges, but I feel like I needed, a professional language to talk about it. So I went and got certified at Cornell in diversity, equity, and inclusion, which gave me a whole different set of tools to talk about it in a way that institutions can understand. Mm-hmm. So one, it was necessity because the industry needs it. We need diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it just seemed like a natural fit for me. Like I was already doing it. I was already thrust into it just by the nature of who I am. So it wasn't too hard for me just to take that on simultaneously as being an artist.
Yeah. What I also heard that you say that you did, and Tequila, I heard you say something very similar too, is this idea of continuing your education, of recognizing, okay, there's something I want to do. I don't necessarily have all the tools to do it yet. How do I figure out how to meet that gap, right? And I think oftentimes a place where we can fall down as adults is we think that we're fully formed, that we've arrived, that we've gotten to a place and we don't need that extra assistance. Can you talk for a second, because a large amount of our target audience is high school youth going into college, and then college youth getting ready to go out there into the world, that maybe they have this BFA and they don't know, especially now with COVID and performing arts being in weird places, necessarily what's next. Was that a difficult decision for either one of you to make, to decide, you know what, I have this education over here, but I need more. I need this MFA, or I need this certification, or I need this conservatory?
In my experience, you never stop learning. I told my mother after undergrad that I was never getting another degree ever, that this was enough and she could have her, BA. Of course, I went on and got an MFA. And then, afterwards I got a coach. That's also education, right? And right now I'm in a program for actors to produce their own work. And once they've successfully produced their own, work as a production company, to sort of rinse and repeat the formula and make short form content for other companies. So that's the course that I'm like currently in. I literally started it on Monday, and I'm terrified. Just going back to the idea that Kenneth was saying, like about just being within the industry, all roads lead to acting for me. So Glubs being successful funnels into the production company that I'm working on starting right now, and content creation that I'm passionate about. That's sort of like my game plan. So you never stop learning. And it might not look like a degree or, a prestigious certification or, but it's, it could be coaching. It could be a mentor. That's also education. Yeah. So, yeah.
Kenneth, look, you're about to say something.
No, I mean, she's absolutely right. No matter what you do, you want to make sure all goals lead back to, art, right, sourcing, and whatever your passion is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's for me, it's always a means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I know that whenever I do a class or a workshop, inevitably there's always a parent that comes up to me afterwards and says, so, hey, wait a minute, you're telling me that my kid won't be broke, that my kid can have a career and can do this in the arts? And my response is always, absolutely. It just takes effort and hard work. And there are survival jobs that you have to get sometimes to take you from point A to point B, but it's all about feeding into that larger goal, right?
Yeah.
Can you all, for a second, have you had any of those? Because I know that I've had survival jobs before I've gotten comfortable, where it was just supposed to be like 6 weeks between gigs. And then 3 months later, I'm like, oh, wait a second, why am I still here? Can you talk about that balance for a minute of trying to figure out, all right, because we live in an industry that is transient in some nature, right? I've got this job for this amount of time and that job for that amount of time. What do you do in the in-between? How do you still make life work?
Yeah, I'm just one of those people. I'll just say it now. I've never actually had like a 9-to-5 job, or what did you call it?
What's a survival job?
Survival job.
Yeah. Yeah. I made that decision very early on when I was 15 years old, when I think I did like an internship at a construction company. And instead of being in the office running errands, which I was supposed to be doing, I was, learning how to drive the tractors and the caterpillars in the yard. So, I just knew the office life, the 9-to-5 was not for me. And I decided then, and it's not to say it hasn't been hard. Like I've literally had to make peace with like the fact that I might starve because I'm not going to take a survival job, but that's just me. So, yeah.
See, I haven't taken a survival job, but I have started survival businesses, I guess.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like that's the harder way around to do it.
But yeah. I mean, tell us more about that.
I mean, the thing for me about a job is that, like, I hate working for other people, man. Like, it sounds horrible, but like clocking in every day, like literally, like I worked a job. I came home and I worked a job at the clothing store in the mall for like one day.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went and applied. I needed money,
Yeah.
And I think for that whole day, it was about 10 hours. And I sat around pretending to fold clothes. And by the end of that day, I was like, yeah, this is not for me, man. Like I was like, thank you for the experience of letting me know that I never want to do this again. You don't have to pay me. Like, don't worry about paying me. Thank you for the experience,
Mm-hmm.
But what I do is I network like crazy. Like I always have like friends who have something going on who like I can jump on or I can work on, or I'll take a job at a church. Like I'll sing, like I'll do anything that, like when I don't have work, like I'll sing in a choir or something. I have a friend who was working on this project. Like I'll sing vocals on for something like that. So I always try to find things within my field and within my industry to get me through. It's never something external that will take me away from the ultimate goal.
Sure. For both of you as business owners, as people that have decided, I'm going to go through this process of creating a new legal entity and starting this business, what advice do you have for youth, for young people, or for, artists of all ages that are sitting there right now contemplating, how do I do this? Like, is this actually a step that I want to take?
I mean, as an artist, you're kind of a business in general. Like, you are the CEO of your life. When you go to work for a company, you are an employee of that company. Like, you are an independent contractor. So therefore you are a business owner. Mm-hmm. So once you start thinking of yourself as, an artist who sells art, mm-hmm. it's easier to branch out and start producing stuff for yourself, so you can be your own boss and not have to depend, like, as we know now on, COVID times, right. Not have to depend on the big company and the big check. So it behooves you to take some responsibility and to take some control over your artistry, because somebody's making money off of it. And you're not making the most money off your art when you could be. These companies, yes, we get paid nicely, but comparatively to what they're getting paid, to what you could be getting paid for your own art, is being a business owner and being in control of your artistry is important.
I 100% agree with everything you just said. Yeah, you are a business as an artist, and I would like to add that business is creativity. It's creative. When you create a work of art, you're taking nothing and you're making it into something. That's essentially what a business is too. And you'd be surprised how artists, creatives thrive within the business realm, because they know how to wrap their head around problems and find solutions to those problems. And that honestly, essentially is what business is.
Mm-hmm. Was that a realization for either one of you that you came to naturally, this idea of thinking about yourself as the business and as the company, and how do you then market yourself? How do you make money for yourself? Was that something that you realized, that somebody had to walk you through?
I know for me as a young artist, it was often part of our training. You go into a master class. Maybe it wasn't very common. I heard one guy say that as an artist, you are the CEO of your own business. Mm-hmm. And as a young artist, you don't really know what that means, because everyone is kind of giving you and asking you for stuff. But then you get to those moments where you don't have the big company to employ you. You don't have the big check coming that will keep you, sustain you for amount of time. So then you start to figure out what you can do and where your power lies. And a lot of these companies, they're business people. They can't create the art. They depend on you, to create the art. You are what they're selling. So for me, realizing that, it was like, okay, like I have my computer, I have my microphone, I have my keyboard, like I can produce content, and build my network, which then makes you more attractive to those companies. So you get a bigger contract, you get more money from them. So it's the more you do on your own, the more attractive you are to the industry, and the more your star starts to rise, and you're an asset. You become more of an asset to companies.
Yeah. And all the successful artists that you see, they have their production companies. Tom Cruise own production company.
Yeah.
Adam Sandler produces everything he's in. Who's that country guy? Very wrinkly. The Wild West dude, like he does Westerns.
Willie Nelson? I don't know.
I love it. Which one? Yeah.
No, Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood. I think he's produced most of his films. I mean, yeah. So even all that is to say, even when you do become successful as an artist, you get tired of waiting around for people to decide that you're good enough for their project, and you want to make your voice heard and do your own thing. Sure. So it's almost it's an inevitability, actually, being a business, because you're going to want to do your own thing.
Yeah, I mean, you start to grow. Yeah, if you don't grow, then your career will fizzle out when no one wants to hire you anymore. Mm-hmm. If you don't take that control.
Part of what we've been talking about internally, and I think what I've just been noticing in general, is this conversation right now around what does equity look like in the arts. And
Mhm.
I feel like there are sometimes two paths, right? There are people that talk about, well, Black artists, BIPOC artists in general need to build our own spaces. And forget about trying to, get our own table scraps. We need to build what's ours. And then there's another side of that conversation, which I think is just as valid, which is there are all these PWIs, all these predominantly white institutions that are out there that are producing for a long time, that have these levels and systems of oppression, whether it's against artists of different gender or different racial and ethnic identity. And so we should be able to speak up to them. We should be able to stand up for ourselves and say to them, no, the way you're operating is incorrect. Because I know that both of you have taken a lot of those risks, and neither one of you strike me as individuals that like hold your tongue when somebody is mistreating you. Can you talk for a minute about the balance that we have to strike? Like, how do we as a community of Black artists that want to build and create our own work, as both of you do, but also that have to work inside of PWIs sometimes, still find that balance of when to push and to create our own space and when to push back on the institution?
You can take that first, because I can talk forever about that one.
Well, if you can talk forever, I'm very. I already know that I'm definitely the number one sort of, build your own studio a la Tyler Perry, and for me it boils down to the time and energy that I have. If I spend my time challenging, and that's valid, and fighting, and questioning and tearing apart, and really examining the systems that cause people like me to be left out. In my mind, that's time that I'm taking away from gloves. That's time that I'm taking away from my voiceover. There has been times when I'm more focused on that part. Like, I think in grad school, I definitely made my voice heard. And for me, that was an educational experience, and dealing with, the intersection of being a Black woman, but also African. And what does it mean then to be African in America? And how does that, there was just a lot of things that I was learning at the same time. And that was a time for that. So right now, I think I'm Black creator number one, and that's where my focus is. But I'd actually really love to hear what Kenneth has to say about this.
Yeah. I mean, I understand both sides of the aisle. A big thing for me is that, and you said these institutions are around and have staples in the field. So I speak mainly of the opera field because, that's just where my knowledge lies. Every city in this country has an opera company. I think we can spend a lot of time trying to build our own, and it will never necessarily equate to the historical, cultural context of, what these institutions offer. It's really difficult to build an opera house. It's really difficult to, build an opera audience just for, Black opera, if you will. First, we have to create the Black operas, which is difficult in itself. The content isn't there. So I think we fight, and just like the microcosm of America, we fight for the right to have a voice in these spheres. And I can't. I'm not one that to play the race card too easily, because some people are just ignorant. They don't know what they don't know.
Sure.
So I take the position of educating them as best I can to seeing the light of inclusion and of diversity and all the things that offers. And then if that, doesn't work, I mean, we have to do a simultaneous job of creating our own space, and doing our damnedest to educate, ignorance and shining light on ignorance in these spheres. Because I was going
to say it's not an either or. I think oftentimes, at least for me, people try to say, well, I'm just going to do this, or I'm just going to do that. And what I find, because my primary art form is theater and musical theater, and there are so many predominantly white-led theater and musical theater companies.
Of course.
that is where I'm going to spend a majority of my time as a working artist and actor and singer. That being said, I also think there's a conversation to be had about why those companies have had such increased access to resources and Black and brown and women-led companies haven't. Yeah.
It's all about it's about what's sellable. I'm taking these business courses now, and Blue, for instance. Blue is the opera by Janine Tesori, who it just won, Best Opera of 2020. It's about a Black family. It's about police violence. And you just say it's about a Black family, and automatically there's a certain level of, oh, that's not for me, for a large population of the consumer audience. So, Tyler Perry is a great example. He has he knows his market. I think he knows his audience, and he creates content just for them. But when you go into a white-centric art form, opera, where is the audience? There's no real audience yet. White industries are struggling to get, a Black audience. So if I go and write a Black opera and I go in and create, Black content specifically for opera lovers, like I have to go through the problem of building an audience from scratch, because they're just so adverse to coming to the opera in general.
Yeah. Is that, I've found, so even just in producing this festival, right? So this is our educational content for the next couple of weeks. And then while we're doing this, we've got 6 shows that we staged, filmed in a theater that are going to go up at the end of the month. And I've heard a lot of people say to me, well, it's a Black theater festival, so can I come? It's a Black theater festival, so should I watch? And there's this balance, right, that I think we have to find. I get sometimes tired of feeling like I have to always educate, and that it's then my responsibility to teach, when the work can do that. Like the creation of the work and the art form, in some ways, I think can normalize our existence in a lot of ways for us. Do you both find that same weight difficult sometimes? This idea that our art has to play double duty, has to both be for us, but then also be a representation to the rest of the world for our culture.
I think that it's impossible for me, because the way I look like in America resembles something that I'm not. I look like an African American woman, but I am African, right? Yeah. So if I create something, it's going to be created from my lived experience. And people with my lived experience in this country are very few and far between. So am I inherently denying myself an audience? I cannot live like that. I cannot, then I might as well just go home. But the dream I was sold about moving to America was that you come here as your own beautiful, unique, individual self, and you find your tribe with whatever you're good at. You find your story, you find your audience, you find your partners, you find your clients, your customers. And that's what, the immigration population has brought to America. So that's my perspective on things. And I know it's not the same as someone else's, but it can't be, because I'm my own person. I'm the only one,
I think when we start to deny ourselves, like a white person can't understand what I'm going through. Like, I think when I approach art, I don't approach it as, oh, I'm a Black man, I have to produce something that Black people is going to understand. The human experience is largely universal. When we're doing art, we're tapping into the emotions of a person. Emotions, feelings aren't necessarily cultural. I think the understanding of those emotions and feelings are cultural, but there's something innate about art that touches on a level beyond, oh, I'm part of this group. Like, I can see a love story and see love. I may understand it in a different way than someone else, but at the core of artistry is the human expression. So I don't go into an opera house thinking about, oh, I'm a Black opera singer. Like, I never think that on stage. Now, how I feel about the art is different. Because I tell you, when I did Blue, it was about a Black family, and like I knew the character inside out because there was just something so natural in it that I didn't have to pretend. You know, I didn't have to act. And I think when we can express ourselves on that level of understanding, it reaches beyond gender, it reaches beyond race, it reaches beyond those boundaries. When we can tap into that innate nature of the art of expression.
Yeah, agreed. The power of storytelling transcends borders, because we're fundamentally the same as humans. We don't know what we're doing here unless someone knows something I don't.
Yeah, I have no clue half the time. So that, we only have a few minutes, and I want to wrap up in a second. But Fakila, you said something that I found really interesting, right? This conversation around the dream that you were sold about moving to America and that immigrant experience. These last, I'll say, I statement, these last 4 or 5 years as an American have been, for me, a little challenging to walk through. to walk through just a little bit. And the challenging part for me, at least, is all of these things that we've been seeing in like violence towards people of color, in the murder of not just Black men, but Black women, Black trans men and women in general, to me is not new. It's just that now everybody has a camera, right, that they can use and they can show, and the larger culture is waking up to that. And so I've had this interesting cognitive dissonance of saying, well, this has been happening for a while, and you're just now realizing that we're dealing with this. I'm curious, as an African woman living in America and having gone through that immigrant experience, what your perception is of the race relations in this country, and specifically how art, I know I shouldn't have asked this question at the end, but I'm sorry. But specifically as artists, like how do we, and what is our responsibility in trying to create work that can heal some of those wounds or teach some of those lessons?
I think, just to answer your question in a nutshell, like, don't be afraid of who you are. The full expression of who you are is 100% valid. And also, just in terms of the former administration, every political system has the capability of screwing up colossally. So when I moved to the United States in 2015, there was a dude, his name was Jacob Zuma. He was the president of South Africa, who was on his way out. When he got elected into office, he had standing accusations that had gone to trial of rape and sexual harassment. And people still elected him. So when the former, I won't even say his name because it's not worth it.
Yep.
When the former president came into his position, I saw the devastation, but I was also like, yo, I mean, it's been happening. It happened with us. It's happening here. It's like it's gonna be okay. Like, you know, the system has you know, it glitches everywhere and for everyone. It's just, I think, the reputation that America, the dream that it sold to everyone, was that it was this free place, equitable, moral, you know, compass type of country. And that kind of blew that illusion up. And it made people question, you know, what is the American dream? What does it mean to be American? And it made me question, why do I even want to be here, you know? But it's the people, it's the individuals that are, you know, in this continent, on this continent, that make it what it is. It's not just that one guy in office. And that's what people also have to realize. There is a lot of beauty in the United States, and trust. I've had to really soul search about, like, why was I even here in the first place? But there is a lot of beauty, and it boils down to the people, the individuals.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate that reminder, because I have to sometimes. I need that myself. Kenneth, as we wrap up, what do you say to young artists that want to make sure that their work has that impact, right? That they can take their art, that they can produce art that speaks to both who they are, but also maybe finds a way to help them express that kind of catharsis towards larger issues and moments.
Of course. I mean, just know what you want to say. You know, I think every artist has to know what they want to say, and what moves them can then move someone else. I mean, you're not going to please everyone, but as long as you come from an honest and pure place, like, you'll find your voice, and someone will hear. They'll hear what they need to hear from it. But live life, good and bad. Live it in its totality, and it will inform your art.
Fantastic. Listen, everybody, I am just thrilled and excited and blessed and grateful to be sitting here with Kenneth Kellogg and Tequila Mthwalo. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Did I get it?
It's Mthwalo. We don't have the
Mthwalo.
consonant, so it's an aspirated T. Yeah.
Got it. So, okay, I probably should have checked that before.
No, it's totally fine.
No,
I pronounced Dr. Scholl's Dr. Scholes for a voiceover commercial, and I felt like such a boob.
That's fantastic. Listen, whether you're watching us live tonight on the 4th, or whether you're watching us in reruns on our website, obsidianfest.org, or on our YouTube channel, I really appreciate you both being here. So thank you so much for this evening.
Pleasure.
Great, thank you. All right, Saray, as our guests leave us for tonight, I'm going to welcome back Saray Daniels, our arts education coordinator for the Obsidian Theater Festival, and she's going to talk us through what we have coming up for the rest of the weekend.
Yes, indeed. I enjoyed that conversation so much, John. Thank you for leading that interview.
Yeah,
that was great. I like that dual setup. I like that. That went really well. Again, hello everyone. We are at the culmination of our Thursday night, Thursday evening content for the Obsidian Theater Festival, and my name is Saray Daniels. I am the Arts Education Coordinator for the Obsidian Theater Festival. What we want to let you know is that this is not the end. This is a why am I holding up two? This is a 3-day process that starts again on Friday at 6 p.m. and Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for both. So if you would like to engage in master classes on dance and theater, please, and they're free, you guys, please make sure that you head over to the Obsidian Theater Festival website, which you can find at obsidianfest.org/education. You'll see the dates along with the place where you click on to enter your email and to register for free. And you will be sent the link with the protected password to join us tomorrow for that content for Friday night. And again, on Saturday at 12 p.m., we'll be having our pipeline programming, where we will have colleges come and talk with our high school students and young youth and young adults about how to transition from high school into college, as well as theater organizations that will also speak about that transition from college into a theater arts organization or a professional arts organization of some shape or form all over the country. We've had so many great colleges and theater orgs come through the programming these past 2 weeks, and we will have much of the same this coming Saturday. So again, thank you all for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern and on Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern as well.